On fire.
Off day Guam, my name is Kensa Nicolas. Thanks for joining me on this Sunday morning. We are here at the Elig Bridge for the Guam Mannengon Memorial Freedom Run, where 5 groups of organizations have started at different parts around the island in Arahan, Santa Rita, Jigo, Mighty, and they've all run down here to the Elig Bridge, where we're going to go to the memorial, the Mannengon Memorial, and each group has reenacted the trek that hundreds of Chamorros had to make during World War II on their way to the Mannengon massacre site. So we are here today. We have the governor, some distinguished guests, the rear admiral, as well as all these organizations. We have DOC, Army, National Guard, Guam Customs and Quarantine, GPD, Guam Fire Department, Guam Police Department, all of these different organizations who've run different legs of their journey to make it down here to the memorial. So we're gathered getting things together, and this entire group is going to walk in a few minutes into the memorial site. And it'll probably be like a 30, 45 minute walk, a little trek. So I think we're going to make our way in there in just a bit. But right now, Asha's behind the camera, and she's just panning around, giving you the sights of all the people that are here at the site. And it's these different legs of this trek have actually they're quite long. Guam Fire Department and the U.S. Coast Guard, they started in Pidi at the Tepungin Park, made their way through Pigo Cemetery, up Agania Heights, through Sinahanya, down to Pago Bay, and through finally up here to the Elig Bridge. So we also had DOC, which started in Agate. The DOC group went from the Agate Mayor's office to the Marine Corps Monument, to the Lost Men of Agate Monument, and then finally to the Tokcha Tribute Site, and on their way up here to the Elig Bridge. The Guam Customs and Quarantine, they started in Inarahan. They started this morning at 6:45. Made their way from Afghanistan Bay Boat Dock down to the mayor's office, to the Umafit Tribute Site, down to Talafofo Bay, then the Mata Tribute Site, and then Tokcha's Tribute Site, and finally up towards Elig Bridge. GPD started at the Mighty MTM location with volunteers from our own station, KUAM. Shout out to those runners. Started off the World War II monument across Cars Plus and Mighty. Made their way down to the T-18 Memorial. Finally to the Manila Mayor's office. Then the Ta'ai Tribute Site. Up Pago Bay and down to the Elig Bridge. And we have the governor and her congregation headed onto one of the buses, and we have the Liberation Queen, Regina. How you doing? Hey, let's get the Liberation Queen to say, hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, are you excited to be out here today?
Yes, this is pretty much my first memorial, feels, like with everyone here. So
Are you going onto this bus with these guys now? Is that what the plan is, or are you walking?
That's a great question. We'll figure that out when we're just waiting for Mayor Savares and everyone to kind of get here.
Great. I mean, how what does the hike mean to you here? Or this, the memorial itself?
It means a lot because it's a time for us to all come together and to reflect on our past and what happened, and to really just, reflect on what happened to us.
Congratulations for winning the Liberation Crown. We'll see you in there. Huh? Thank you. That is our beautiful Liberation Queen. So she's getting ready to make the trek inside. And I think, do we have one more group? Let me see. No, yeah, those are the 5 groups. So GPD. Oh no, we do have one more group. I'm sorry. DOC. We have 2 more groups actually. No, we did DOC. Sorry. I'm sorry. Here we go. The Guam National Guard. They had the walk, guys. They had to start in Chaguian. That's in Jigo. Made their way to the Old Dedito Fire Station, through the Guam Business Center, to Manila Mayor's Office, and then through to the Ta'i Tribute Site, Pago Bay, Asinan Tribute Site, and then finally down here at Elig Bridge. And all these groups are here already. And we are just slowly making our way. In a few minutes, we should be walking into the memorial site itself. I'll see if we can get an interview with someone else here in a bit. But I think everyone's just anxious to start the hike in. Here we go. I think we're going to go follow the Air Force. We're going to jump with these guys. Let's get in here. So these organizations,
when they got the Americans came and they left there, they were gonna go to Minnesota. They're like, oh, we're get there too. And they're just like,
oh, sorry, I'm sweaty. So we have all these buses here that we're taking, survivors of the war and other members of the community who maybe cannot make the physical challenges of the hike now, taking them down to the site, which is about 30 minutes in. And then there's a trolley and these buses that are coming to and from Elig Bridge into the memorial site, and they handle the transportation for all these people. There's a lot of people here, so. Remember that our grandfathers and grandparents had to make this trek, or some of them had to make the trek to the memorial, to the Mannengon site. So you can imagine the difficulties. We're going to move to the front of this line. We have Rosanna here. Yeah, here we go. We have all these groups. We go on fire, GPD, and we have the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts leading right up front with the flags, the flag bearers for this ceremony. Great uniforms too. This is a really solemn experience, paying tribute to a very important part of Guam history here. And each leg represents the actual trek that hundreds of Chamorros had to make to come down to Mannengon during World War II under the Japanese occupation. These are all part of the 75th Liberation Day festivities. Luckily, we can jump on the bus or trolley at any point in time. Here we go, just we're gonna move up. We're gonna move up. Once again, if you're just joining us, we are here at Elec Bridge, making our way down to the Mannengon Memorial, which is about 30 minutes in, 30-minute walk in. We'll be there in a few minutes. Here we go. We are moving. Remember, there were 5 start points for the Freedom Run this morning, where different organizations recreated the trek that hundreds of Chamorros had to make during World War II, during the Japanese occupation, where they were killed at the Mannengon site. Those locations being Piri, Mongmong Totomaiti, Jigo, Inarahan, and Agate. Remember, this is all part of the festivities of the 75th liberation. 75 years since the island was liberated from Japanese occupation. And remember, Liberation Day is actually 2 weeks from now. So we're going to walk through this group a little bit, just so you can see the different parties involved. And these aren't all. Many of the remaining survivors also make this trek as well. But 75 years, so some of them are quite old and cannot make the same distance on foot. So luckily, we have these trolleys and buses in the back, which are here to take people to and from the memorial site today. And at the memorial site, there will be a service. If we still have some video left by the time we get there, we'll cover that as well. Now we're just walking a 30-minute portion of this trek. Not too long, maybe 2 miles. Some of these groups had to start as far as Jigo. We talked to Casey Cruz this morning, who was part of Guam Customs and Quarantine, and he started the Inarahan route. But he said his leg was short. 8 miles. 8 miles. Oh, wow. And then obviously, even these different legs, there are different rally points, relay points on the trek. So, the Inarahan, they switched off somewhere in the middle. But this is not an easy journey. And when you imagine 75 years ago, the Chamorros who didn't have relay rally water stations and had to make that trek, it's quite an impressive feat, albeit very tragic. And we're passing one of these buses right here that is helping to facilitate some of the war survivors who wanted to take part of the festivities, but who physically just cannot make that journey. Some of the survivors, we're talking about World War II and Japanese occupation, which occurred 75 years ago. Some of these stories are very emotional, but at the same time, inspirational stories of survival and persistence and faith and hope. And you can learn more about the stories or listen to those stories by visiting our KUAM properties. Check out our Instagram page, where we have audio excerpts and recounts from various survivors that we will be posting throughout the month, as well as following on TV8 and the GNN and TV1 networks, where you can watch Survivor Series and the We Always Remember series, two archived shows about World War II, hosted by our very own Sabrina Salas Montanani, where she talked to survivors about their experiences during World War II. We're passing the Guam National Guard. One of many participants in the Freedom Run this morning. I hear the Guam National Guard. Their route was from Jigo, the Chiguian massacre site, which is far. But they're still hard in it right now. We're passing a small contingent here from the Guam Fire Department. The other members are already at the memorial site. The Guam Fire Department started from PD with the U.S. Coast Guard. And you can see as we get to the middle of the formation, we have other locals from around the island who volunteered and are just participating to be part of the experience and the festivities here and to pay tribute. As we come up here to the front, back to where the flag bearers are, you can see that they are followed by Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, as well as the Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and their Chief of Staffs and First Men. Hi, I'm with Mrs. Villagomez again here, who is a board member with the Guam Mannengon Memorial Foundation, right?
Yes.
How important is an event like today? You know.
Oh, this event is very, very important. It's a reenactment of what our parents and grandparents did during World War II, when the Japanese ordered the conversion of all the Chamorro people in the Mannengon Valley. So we had our Chamorros, our grandparents and parents, having to walk from places as far up as Jigo to as far down as Molessu, from all over the island, and with the intent of having them come to Mannengon. Some did not make it along the way. Some were placed at different campsites like Asinan, Moffett, in the different areas. But we honor all of them. And we know that although many of them did not make it to Mannengon, the intent was there for them to. So today, the whole event is honoring our survivors. This is the focus of today, what they went through.
And we have a bunch of different organizations, GPD, GFD, Guam Customs and Quarantine, all these different organizations who've taken, reenacted the different legs of that journey for the different organizations.
Yes.
It's a great feeling, and we do this every year.
Yes. The foundation has been doing this since 2004, and we want to keep it up every year because this is an important part of our legacy, our heritage, and so that's important to us.
Yeah, 2004, that's 15 years ago. This is the 75th liberation, or anniversary of the liberation of Guam. And we see the trolley and the bus behind that is still carrying some of the remaining survivors of World War II, and that number continues to dwindle. As the years go on. How vital is it that next generation of descendants continues to keep that tradition alive and continues to pass that history on down to younger generations?
It's very, very important. As a matter of fact, this year we're so happy and fortunate. We have University of Guam's Manetla Marianas Foundation or club helping us out this year. So when you see a bunch of the young folks that are helping out in the event this year, they're part of that young group from the University of Guam.
Are there any other festivities or events that the foundation plans every year or sets up that I guess if people want to get involved with the foundation?
Well, we have monuments at different areas that are being erected this year and dedicated. So this coming Tuesday, July 9th at 10 o'clock will be the dedication of the monument at Tizon. And then on the 12th, it's a dedication of a monument at Manila. And then on the 19th will be a dedication of a monument down in Agate. And then on the at the end, we're going to have a time capsule. And I believe that's August 11th. That I'll have to get back to you on.
Thank you so much, Ada. We will be covering all those on KUAM. We'll be streaming all of those events, all of the uncovering of those memorials. So definitely stay tuned. Thank you so much. Thank you. So once again, that was Rosanna Villagomez again with the Mannengon Memorial Foundation, explaining the importance of this yearly trek. You know, as we wait for people to catch up, I think we're going to jump on a trolley.
Get the people on the trolley.
Yeah, let's get the people on the back of the trolley. See the senators, Eugene Visco-Lee, Speaker Tina William Barnes, Amanda Shelton, as well as Clint Ridgell. Once again, we see GFD, Guam Army. Remember, there are other groups. We had Guam Customs and Quarantine. We had GPD, Guam Fire, or the rest of the Guam Fire Department crew, U.S. Coast Guard. All of those who are already made the trek up, so they're already up there. But we're gonna jump onto this trolley back here. Let's go. Hey, hi everyone. KUAM. How you guys doing? Thanks. So we have one more bus behind us with the survivors. I'm here with Tony Perez. Mr. Perez, you came here to join part of the festivities for the march up to the Mannengon Memorial. What does the history of the memorial mean to you?
It's the first time I've been here throughout my whole life. My mom has passed away, my grandmother has passed away, my grandfather has passed away. So it was the spur of the moment to make it a point that I invite myself to come down here to this event, because if I kick the bucket and maybe I will not be able to remember what have happened in the past with my ancestors. And I made it a point 3 days ago that I'm going to make the trip to come down here and experience what it was like for my ancestors, what they have went through. So I'm glad that I made a point to come down here, and it's not a regret. It's something to experience, a learning experience for me, in which I can pass down to my kids. And I know that my kids have not come down here, so at least literally I can let them know that I went through it and I feel what it was like coming down here since the moment I got down from the car. I had the anxiety feeling of what my ancestors have went through. So it made my heart felt something that I was glad to be a part of.
Did your grandparents or your parents were they part of the Mannengon?
Yes, they have walked from Sumay all the way up here, and just to know that, I wanted to see what it felt like for them to go through what they have went through, and it's a difference between that time with them marching here, with us coming up here. I'm totally wondering what they have went through, and I know that it felt totally different with them marching during the war and with us coming up here. So I'm glad to partake this trip, and I am going to inherit this trip of learning what my ancestors have went through.
Did your parents or grandparents ever tell you about any of those experiences during the war?
Yes, my mom walked through up here, and it happened that she was mentally disturbed to a point where she has a certain percentage of her mental ability during that time that she has walked through here, because she was telling me that they were running around in the jungle, and when they were got captured, she took part of walking up here from Sumay. So it has made me really wonder, because of what my mom went through. She has experienced a mental delusion, an anxiety of just the war happening, and even to a point for her to be marching up here. I really wanted to experience and feel what it was like, and wonder what she went through marching from Sumay all the way up here, and also wonder to the other people that was walking or marching from other parts of the island. This is something that is hysterical, and something that everybody should really wonder and experience, and see where the cave was, and what they went through the time that they have experienced or endured this audacity.
We were just at Elig, right at the bridge, and I mean, I'm sweating like a dog right now. It's so hot, and this is only a portion, like a small, tiny portion of the journey that like they made from Sumay or Chiguyan, all the different sites. Now 75 years after Japanese occupation, after the anniversary of this place, the survivors, the people who experienced that firsthand, many of them are gone, right? Many of them have passed.
And it's totally different for what they feel and what we feel now. With them marching and the war going on during that time, we cannot imagine what they were going through, taking part of the march during the Japanese occupation. It's totally different with us coming up here, but at least we got to wonder and think of what they went through, and got to see the place where they went through. It's a learning experience, and it's an historical experience that everybody in the island that is from here should partake, or even if they're not partaking this particular day, they should make it a point to come down to experience and see what the cave was like before they even pass away, or before they get old, or they might not even be able to see it.
With that said, do you think that the issue of war reparations now should it finally be resolved? Do you ever think it will be resolved?
Well, to me, I don't really care about the war reparation. It's just the idea of partaking this particular walk or particular ride into the cave. To me, it doesn't. It's irrelevant to the war reparation. But the point is that if other people that has endured the war occupation have gotten paid, why not? They deserve to get paid if there is some money available, and if there's funds available for them to be paid. They should be paid before they even passed away, or be given a financial hardship compensation to at least enjoy before they pass away, knowing the fact that there is a funding and there is a compensation for this particular type of event.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the festivities. Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to chill right here for a little bit.
It is hot.
It is really hot.
Have a lot of heart to do this. There's an older man. I think he was a survivor. I think he's one of the survivors. He's
Carrying a
walking.
flag?
Yeah.
He's carrying a flag.
He's carrying a flag and he's walking, and we're sitting in the bus.
I mean, it's hot. I can't even imagine, You imagine the stress.
I can't imagine what they had to go through back in the day. Like, this is, I mean, I know it's just walking, but how hot it is. it really just takes a toll on your body.
And many died. Many didn't make the trek. They died on their way up here. So, and many died when they got there. Like, it's, I don't even know. Like, yeah, imagine, like, even all the groups that participated, they reenacted the treks from the different locations, but they did it in a relay, right? So, you got 2 or 3 guys running to one stop, then another 2 or 3 guys finishing a stop, then going to the next, breaking it down for groups of people. But can you imagine 75 years ago,
Doing the whole thing.
yeah, doing the whole thing? There are no water stations. There are soldiers with guns and aggression, your entire family, maybe you don't have running shoes, maybe I don't know what you're wearing, but, it's tough. Crazy part of it, history. And we are about halfway in, right? Oh, maybe we might be a little closer. We already made the turn, so. And remember, these are all part of the festivities that are part of July, part of the 75th liberation of Guam, which culminates in the Liberation Parade on July 21st, Sunday, 2 weeks from now. We will be covering that. You catch the full parade on Channel 8 as well as streaming. And we will have different things going on from the event, as well as other forms of coverage of the entire event. You can view our story map, which has a visual history of Japanese occupation during World War II. You can view that on our Instagram page at the link in our bio. You can read stories from survivors or watch the special series from Sabrina Salas Matanani called Survivors, as well as We Always Remember War. All of those going on. We're going to get down here in a little bit. So here we are finally at the Mannengon Memorial site.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now posting the Mannengon Memorial Foundation flag. This flag has been run in every single celebration since 2004. This flag will be retired this year and will be put into the time capsule to be opened in when the time capsule gets opened. Our World War II survivors are now disembarking from the trolleys, so if we can make some room for them to come on in. Yes. If we can have our distinguished guests who are in the front, please come in and take your seats so we can allow the war survivors to come through. Join this.
So a little history behind Mannengon. In the waning days of World War II, the Japanese Imperial Army forced Chamorros on Guam to gather at selected sites without food, water, or medical assistance. The largest of these camps was located here in Mannengon, and it held as many as 21,000 women and children. The memory of the atrocities suffered here will forever endure in the hearts of the people of Guam.
Our war survivors are still disembarking from the bus. It just takes them a little bit of time, but I'm sure we can all understand.
May this place commemorate the indomitable spirit of the Chamorro people and serve as an unceasing memorial to every soul marked by the events of this place. May this place move and inspire us to all work for peace here and everywhere, so that sufferings endured here may never be repeated anywhere in the world. Once again, this is the 75th anniversary of the Mannengon event.
Ladies and gentlemen, the war survivors are now coming forward. We can give them a round of applause as they come and take their seats.
As you can see, we have some of the survivors of Mannengon making their way in. 75 years.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephanie Flores, and I'm the president of the Mannengon Memorial Foundation. It is my honor today to serve as your mistress of ceremonies. The first part of our program, we will have our runners post their Mannengon flags. Now, these runners this morning ran from all points of the island to retrace the steps of our distinguished Manamku who were forced to march to Mannengon 75 years ago. So first, from the Guam Fire Department, they ran, this is the Guam Fire Department and the United States Coast Guard ran beginning at Pigo to represent the forced march from Southwest Central Guam. So Chief, if you could please bring your flags and present it to the Manamku in the front row. Next, we have the Guam Army National Guard and the Guam Air National Guard, led by the Territorial Adjutant General Esther Agigi, and they ran from beginning from Jigo, representing the march from north to south. And if they could provide their flags to the members of the Manamku in the second row. Which group is this one? DOC. Okay. And finally, we have the Department of Corrections, led by the Deputy Director of the Department of Corrections, Joey Turlahi. I ask that you please give your flags to the war survivors in the third row. We also had runners from the Guam Police Department, the Guam Community College 17th Criminal Justice Cycle, as well as the Customs and Quarantine. Let us go give a big hand to all these runners who did their jobs this morning. At this time, I would like to call on all of our Gumas who are present to do the bendition. gentlemen, please remain standing for the presentation of the colors by the Guam Army and Air National Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem and our Guam hymn will be led by the Guam class of 1956, who are all World War II survivors. At the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the Antay matunan niya ito lugar. Para i-honra, para i-gloria, aviva Isla Sempara. Para i-honra, para i-gloria, aviva Isla Sempara. Todo y tiempo y paz para hita tan ginilangin na bendición. Contra peligro na fans of Fuham, sus protegi San Juan. Contra peligro na fans of Fuham, sus protegi San Juan. Please remain standing for the Inafrasi.
Ofrecen maestro para proteger, salud defendi, y hilengi, y cultura, y lenguaje, y aire, y hanun zanitano tamoro. Ni iren shaku direto ginenas duas fata. Esti o fitma, y lo biblia, zani banderahu, y banderan Guam.
Thank you. Everybody, you may be seated. At this time, I would like to call on the chairman of the Mannengon Memorial Foundation, former Senator Willie Flores. What a lot of people don't understand about Senator Flores.
We are going to go ahead and close our stream here. If you want to catch the rest of the footage of the Mannengon Memorial, you can catch it on KUAM News on channel 8 TV8. We should have full coverage of the event there. Thank you for joining us for this special occasion. And we will see you later on Liberation Day. Make sure you follow us on social media to check out the rest of our coverage of the 75th liberation of World War II. See you.